Prepared for the stream. Yeah, this morning wasn't exciting actually. I I had a game that I completely forgot about. So I ran it, and I had put down that I was going to run the. Oh, right, no, hang on, let me fix this. So, today is going to be an extra special day, and I'm really excited. And I mean, I'm sure it's going to be blood. Okay, we have that. Oh no, I know exactly which one it is. It's not that one. It's where are you? That one. Yeah, and then we'll get rid of this. Sorry, dice cam. Thirsty swordless. Right. It's aha. You see, I'm getting better at pointing on camera. Matt, thirsty sword lesbians. It's exciting. I am so pumped right now. Like this is so we're doing character creation for thirsty sword lesbians, and I created a character and they're an NB, Imab NB, I think is what we call them. The same way Antares is a very good friend of mine. They consider they actually kept the username Thirsty Sword Lesbian. They didn't even know about the game. They just kind of liked the vibe, which to be fair is a pretty awesome vibe. But they're that. What I oh yes, I also needed to do a thing or two real quick, but go to here and um, um, so yes, so Thirsty Sword Lesbians is amazing. All right, that's a thing. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Um, so I'm going to open up the thingy and bring up Thirsty Sword Lesbians, so that I can find the no, not that one. To find it first. Thirsty Sword Lesbians. Here it is. DSL. Handbook. Okay. Palette. Oh, this is just the basic handouts. Okay, nope. I want the play. This is the one I want. The core rulebook. Yes. Okay. Okay. Very. Okay. Yay. Okay. Shenanigans and ensuing. Okay, so very exciting stuff. All right. That brings this up. Then I can bring you up. Okay, good. Then I can. Yes. Okay. Hi. Oh, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Hey, pops. What's up? We are doing Thirsty Sword Lesbians today, because it's like the coolest game ever. I can actually send you a copy, I think, because I have your email address. But my grand plan for today was to go back to it because I hadn't been back to it in like over a week, even before, and whatever happened. And so Warhammer Forge, right? So we were doing Warhammer 40k last night, but we were rolling our way through it as Thirsty Sword Lesbian's character, and I had this whole playbook set up, but I never had a name. I need a name. NB who presents on the fem side. I need a name for them. Oh, I actually have an aesthetics and demeanor and a sword. It's a delicate sword, basically a rapier. A flouncy but deadly one. Kind of the one in pink is wielding on the picture, on the cover. The one in the pink has the thinner sword. Because, it's cool. Yes. Playful demeanor, flowy tops, and tight bottoms. So, that's fun. Hi! Oh, BB, hello! I haven't seen you in ages. Welcome! We're doing Thirsty Sword Lesbians today, so, shenanigans. Welcome. Because Thirsty Sword Lesbians is, like, the coolest RPG ever. Okay, not the coolest RPG ever, but it's pretty darn cool, and it's all about thirsty sword lesbians, and shenanigans, and it has a lot of built-in, trust, safety. No, it's a role-playing game. Here, I'll go back to the beginning. I did a whole explanation, but I honestly don't mind going over it again. So basically, it's, you start out with a, so, here, I'll read you the introduction because it's really cool. Thirsty Sword Lesbians battled a tyrannical ruler when her enforcers marched down from the frosty north. They rocket through the stars to safeguard diplomats, ending a generations-old conflict. They sip tea together and share shy glances at the corner cafe until they need to take up their swords to defend their community. Even in conflict, they seek peace with their opponents, and sometimes connect more deeply than anyone expects. Your thirsty sword lesbians may be fantasy heroes or may inhabit a galaxy of laser swords and starships. Anywhere that swords cross and hearts race, thirsty sword lesbians are there. A sword duel can end in kissing, a witch can gain her power by helping others find love, and an entire campaign can be built around wandering matchmakers flying from planet to planet. Whether it's an entire planet, a knightly order, or just a coven to which the protagonists belong, they are part of a community that embodies the important ideals worth fighting for, even as you strive to make it better. Misogyny, transphobia, racism, and other forms of bigotry are not the norm here, though they may be the norm elsewhere if the players wish to confront these issues. As a thirsty sword lesbian, you can change the world for the better by acting with integrity and compassion, fight when something is worth fighting for, redeem or seduce adversaries, make out, dance, carouse, solve problems with courage, wit, and style, deliver zingers and bon mots, make lasting friends and enemies. Ready? Let's go. Let's see. Thirsty Sword Lesbians a role-playing game for telling queer stories with friends. If you love angsty disaster lesbians with swords, you've come to the right place. Even if you've never played a role-playing game, this book contains everything you need to learn how to play and run the game, including some scenarios to get you started and guidance on how to create your own romantic adventure. Role-playing, and if it gets boring, you can stop and I'll skip to the good part, but this is actually really well written. A role-playing game is essentially a game of improvisation and storytelling with some rules to help you and your friends enjoy yourselves. One person plays the role as the game master, and the others each play an individual PC, or player character. You're telling a story together, and the GM and the PCs have different roles. GM presents the world and the scenarios and moderates the conversation at the table, and introduces challenges for the characters. And narrate all the people in the fiction who aren't PCs, the non-player characters, NPCs. The other players describe or act out the actions of their PCs and help the GM make sure everyone gets the opportunity to shine. The rules of this book are here to help prompt your creativity, share the spotlight among the players, and provide unexpected twists. The game begins as soon as you gather your friends and are ready to bring your imaginary world to life. Some groups find it helpful to use a ritual to signal that the group's focus is moving to the game, such as lighting a candle, starting some background music, or summarizing what happened in the previous session. The goal of the game is for everyone to have a good time. The following principles help make this happen. Everyone at the table contributes to the story and the shared experience of playing the game, and shares the responsibility of making sure that experience is a positive one. This is not a game of elaborate planning and strategy. Follow your heart, dive headlong into danger, and be larger than life. Feel deeply and powerfully and often. The game invites you to feel the deep emotional conflict of your PC and care about the other characters in the game. This is a game about feeling things and forging relationships. Consider sharing your character's inner feelings so that the other players at the table can play into those feelings. For instance, if your character has the frightened condition, you could use an emotional support, they're more likely to get that support if you tell the other players what your character's feeling. Likewise, foster an environment where your fellow players feel safe exploring intense feelings and potentially difficult topics. And they have a whole well, that's on page 10. I'll get to it. You are all amazing and badass. Make room and set up opportunities for the other PCs to shine as well. Thirsty Sword Lesbians is a game about relationships. Think about how to create interesting and dramatic dynamics between the PCs. Make sure to give other players a chance to think and make decisions on their own for their contributions to the story. Many problems faced by thirsty sword lesbians can be solved by talking or flirting, but not all. Not everyone is redeemable, and when emotions flare and blades clash, you can find that your opponent is too set in their ways, too comfortable with injustice, or just unrepentant. PCs aren't perfect paragons of virtue. They can be gay disasters. They can be flawed people, but they, at the very least, have their story arc should see them growing and to stand for admirable princesses. You do not have to be witty or good at flirting in real life to play a character whose skills, with those skills, or to emulate those things through roleplay. The keys are collaboration and communication. If you're not sure what kind of romantic approach would be welcome with another character, you can simply ask their player, gossip about the main character, or try to figure them out using game mechanics. This isn't a game where the players are at odds, even if their characters may be in conflict at times. Generally, you want the other players to know about your character, to know how to approach them. You might drop hints or tell them outright. This kind of communication can take some guesswork out of flirting, which is to say, guessing wrong can't be a ton of fun. The same applies when you're trying to come up with a verbal barb that will sting the other character. If you know what they care about, what their sensitivities are, it'll be easy to get under their skin with your comment. If you really want your character with brilliant, spontaneous retort and nothing springs to mind, you can always call on the wisdom of the table. Each character can be supremely witty, as witty as the entire group of players put together. Finally, not every character in Thirsty Sword Lesbians is good with words. Shy and awkward sword lesbians find love too. A few flirting ideas. Only some of these are good ideas in real life. Show interest in their sword, offer to share food or drink, invite them closer, meet their eyes, then blush, look away. Meet their eyes with a fiery gaze, pretend to be married to each other as part of a cover story, tilt up their chin with the point of your sword, show genuine care for their well-being and goals, share embarrassing story or picture, discovers there's only one bed, toss your hair in slow motion, flower petals encouraged, wipe a smudge of engine oil from their neck, or cheek, stay up all night talking about your traumas, do crimes together, bring them flowers or the heads of their enemies, ask them to help you try on clothes, or take them off, dance and invite them to join you, suplex a boulder to show off your muscles, tear a strip from your cloth to bind their wounds, highlight your scent, the sound of your voice, the way you move, offer to show them your favorite hot spring. Yes, this is the big one, though, that sets safety and consent. To tell dramatic and meaningful stories, everyone involved needs to know that they are safe to do so. The game invites you to get invested in characters, have complicated and potentially vulnerable feelings, and explore gay identities that are frequently targets of abuse in broader society. Thirsty Sword Lesbians helps you create an environment for emotional roleplay in several different ways, though ultimately the words written here can't substitute for approaching one another with empathy and caring. First, the game is structured so that you, the player, always get to choose the actions of your character. The mechanics may tell you that an event has distressed the character, or that they believe a lie, or face some other circumstance, but the game never dictates what your PC must do. Instead, mechanics provide incentives and temptations, leaving the decision to the player. Second, the game mechanics are always available if you find yourself in an emotional role-playing moment and need some distance from embodying your character's feelings. If you want to be flirting but playing out a conversation feels like too much, you can always suggest it's a good time to roll for Entice move and break the character to use the mechanics. Finally, the game encourages the use of specific safety tools. To build themes of the game together, check in on one another, or veto problematic elements of the narrative or the experience of play. By introducing safety tools at the start and keeping a reminder of them in the play area, you remind one another that your well-being is what's important. You also reduce the social barrier to expressing discomfort in the game. Takes a turn that could make someone uncomfortable. At the end of each session, all PCs gain an XP if someone used a safety tool during the session. This can be as simple as checking in to see if everyone's comfortable or if anyone needs to take a break to refill their drink and go to the bathroom. Ooh, and this is actually one of my favorite sections of the game. No fascists or bigots allowed. To play Thirsty Sword Lesbians, you must support radical liberation, intersexual feminism, and gay liberation, respect transgender people, non-binary people, intersex people, and women, respect racialized people, respect black, indigenous, mixed-race people, and other people of color, respect sex workers, respect disabled people, respect immigrants, respect lesbians and other people with non-straight sexualities, respect people experiencing poverty or homelessness, respect neurodivergent people, such as those on the autism spectrum, respect fat people and people of all body types, not demand that anyone educate you about their marginalizations. If you don't agree, fix your heart before sharing the table with other people. If you do agree but you're struggling with self-loathing over any aspect of your identity, that's understandable. We're taught to hate ourselves in so many ways. Come on in and let's celebrate the existence and joy of people like us. I think that's beautiful. Like, no, you can't play if you're a bigot. That's just no, which I appreciate. They have a whole slew of safety tools as well. Including the check-in card, which is a lightweight and flexible safety practice, is to simply check in on one another, and a visual aid such as a check mark drawn on an index card can help remind the players to do this. If you notice that another player seems uncomfortable with the subject matter is straying close to a sensitive topic, or if it's simply been a long time since the group took a break, you can always check in. Pausing play for a moment can help make space for people to express their need or simply reaffirm that they're having a good time. It can also be good practice to check in before introducing a heavy topic, even if no one has thought to express a line or veil around that topic in advance. The X card, similar to lines and veils, you can also use the palette to keep track of elements that you wish to exclude for reasons of safety, sometimes called lines and veils. Lines, if the content is excluded entirely from the fiction, and veils if it's okay to include off-screen but not as a focus. You can modify to add to the palette at any time. People aren't going to write down every single thing they don't want in advance. Be considerate about introducing elements that might be objectionable. It makes sense. You're always kind of... I mean, I would do this as a DM anyway. Just, you kind of have to, like, be aware if you're introducing stuff, and, you know, you do check in with your players and kind of gauge how well they're reacting to different stuff. Of course, it's usually done much more subtly, and there is a social element to that, so this, and a lot of D&D now has the consent, where people explain at the beginning anything that really, really triggers them, so you can avoid, you know, anything. If you avoid anything really hard triggers, then you can kind of negotiate at the table if you're, as a DM, keeping track of your players, which makes sense. But yeah, it is important. I think it's a little formalized in the system, but I understand how that helps some people, so I'm not opposed to, you know, having the system set up. X card is similar to veils and lines, but it's shorthand used in the moment. Keep a reminder on the table, such as an index card with an X drawn on it. Anyone can invoke the X card by tapping the card, making the X with their forearms, or simply saying so, to remove an element from the game. Don't haggle, argue, or belittle the person expressing their needs, and don't ask them to justify it. If you need to rewind to an earlier part of the story and redo a scene without the problematic element. If you are Xing something, you find it useful to express it as a line or veil or static condition that will make it okay. The precise terminology is not important. For example, a line might be no anti-trans bigotry in the story. A veil might be anti-trans bigotry can be a feature of the patriarchal society in the setting, but we don't want to deal with it directly. Or a condition. I'm okay with having anti-trans bigotry depicted as long as the bigot is clearly the villain and not allowed to win. Which is fair. If the scope of the boundary is unclear, respectfully seek to clarify. This may mean asking simple clarification at the table or taking a break and inviting the person to talk one-on-one. Be clear the person does not need to justify the boundary. The goal is to understand what you're asking for so you can honor it. A simple clarification at the table can be less traumatizing than being pulled aside. The support of the table can be important, and no one should be pressured to interact one-on-one with someone who has just upset them. It's important for all players to know where the boundaries are, and they may have their own needs around X subject matter, such as that they need a restrictive boundary. It's common for content that bothers one person to bother other tables as well. Of course, this is an invitation to chip away at a boundary, only to express additional safety needs. It's meant to encourage direct expression of boundaries and normalize, here it says here, the expectation that others will respect if you set a boundary. Easy to remember and well known. Some weaknesses of the X card are that social pressure against expressing needs can be very strong, even with the tool in play, and X can feel like a blunt instrument, which is why people experiencing difficulty with content may freeze up and discount their feelings, and some expressions in the X card emphasize moving quickly and pretending that X contact never occurred, which may not be a good resolution depending on the needs of those at the table. Additionally, X card is a term used by different people to mean different things. Make sure your players are on the same page about how to use the tool in your game. Yeah, that's why I'm not sold on the X card, is just because it's so blunt and there is a lot of social pressure on that. I mean, personally, I think it's kind of cool. But, I was going to do character creation today. And, but I wanted to read that because you hadn't heard of the game, and it's really cool, and I wanted to, show it off a little. But I created a character. When you, basically, the whole game revolves around what's called making moves. When certain situations arise in a story, you pause the conversation to roll dice. This is called making a move, and each move has different trigger conditions. Each PC has access to the same basic moves, plus a few moves and features that are specific to the playbook they choose. Whenever you roll 2d6, or 2 6-sided dice, and add them up, for a number between 2 and 12. You often add a stat like daring or grace. This is denoted by rolling plus daring or plus grace. So if you're doing a status 1, roll daring means roll 2-sided dice, add them up, and add 1. It goes from +2 to -1. Hi! Welcome! Bees! Hi! I was explaining about Thirsty Sword Lesbians, because Thirsty Sword Lesbians are awesome, and BB had never heard of it, so I wanted to, go over some of the introduction and a little bit about it, and then I was explaining this character I created, who I didn't name yet, and, they have some playbook moves, and, there's a whole section, too, for aesthetics. So, for demeanor, fashion, and the type of sword they have. And, fun stuff. Yes, it's an actual TTRPG that exists. Also, hi, we have new friends. Welcome, my name is Lee. Kind of she-her vibe today, more like she-they, but he-they is fine. I'm pretty chill. Yeah, Thirsty Sword Lesbians is an actual TTRPG. Oh, did you miss that one too? Okay, so basically this, I backed it on Kickstarter, and now I have it, and I was really excited about it, and I have, so I've been, I did a whole stream on it earlier, and then I wanted to go back to it because I wanted to do, yes, this is, I know, right? It's like the coolest, and they have all this. Okay, I'll go over some of the other stuff too. So basically, you roll 2d6 and you add your stats. So for your stats, you have daring, grace, heart, wit, and spirit, and you get from a -1 to +2 in all of them. And so I created a character. They have the different playbooks, which is kind of like a character archetype. And then, yes, that's the whole thing. Like, there is one like there's barely a combat system. I mean, there is an optional bonus combat system that I probably would implement. Also, it says that the GM does not roll dice, which I think is not fair. The GM standing for Game Master, of course. But I kind of would argue that NPCs deserve their chance at rolls as well, but maybe that's just me. Yeah, that's what it says. Oh, the best part. You didn't read the best part. The best part. They have all these safety rules too on how to express boundaries. But to play Thirsty Sword Lesbians, you must support racial liberation, intersectional feminism, and gay liberation, respect transgender people, non-binary people, intersex people, and women, respect racialized people, respect Black, Indigenous, mixed race people, and other people of color, respect sex workers, respect disabled people, respect immigrants, respect lesbians and other people with non-straight sexualities, respect people experiencing poverty and homelessness, respect neurodivergent people, such as those on the autism spectrum, respect fat people and people of all body types, not demand that anyone educate you about their marginalizations. If you don't agree, fix your heart before sharing the table with other people. If you do agree but you're struggling with self-loathing, loathing over any aspect of your identity, that's understandable. We're taught to hate ourselves in so many ways. Come on in and let's celebrate the existence and joy of people like us. This is like they put it in the rules that you can't play if you're a bigot. Like, that just makes me so happy. But yeah, it's actually like a role-playing game, and the stats are the way it's laid out is kind of cool. The way the game is played. So basically, if you're ever in a situation where the outcome is unclear, but you stop and you do what's called make a move, which can be anything from flirting to stabbing to all sorts of stuff. And then if you get it's 2d6 plus your what are they called? Attribute? Stat. Plus your stats. So, if it's a daring, it's 2d6 plus 1, because this character, who doesn't have a name, Amab Envy, who presents more on the femme side, they're pretty cool. I don't know what their deal is, but... Oh, they wear flowy tops and tight bottoms, and are playful and have a delicate swords, like a rapier. Also, our character archetype is a scoundrel, so that's kind of fun. I rolled randomly to... Oh, I have a chart. So they have, instead of character classes, what they have is... I know I'm not explaining it well, but they have playbooks. So each, there are 9. I have listed them. Yes. There we go. There are 9 of them. I listed them on a roll of 9. Each has different. Basically, it's what is your key, your core character flaw / motivation, and so and then they each give you special abilities and different access things, and then you get what's called a playbook, which, a playbook, basically you have a bunch of moves that you get. You pick, there's ones that anyone can do, then you get to pick them out of your, pick a few out of your playbook, and then you can pick, every time you get a certain number of experience, you can pick them out of other playbooks as well, but some are playbook exclusive. Shiny and new, when you give or receive emotional support, which is the equivalent of healing. Basically, instead of taking physical injuries, which you probably do as well, but that's not a game mechanic, what you take is emotional conditions that negatively impact your character and decrease your rolls. And if you take too many conditions, you can no longer fight. And the number, I think it's 5 for PCs, and like NPCs vary from 1 for like basic mooks to like a full-on 5 for the big boss. And let's see what I can check about conditions. But emotional support is how you remove conditions. Basically, you need the other player to come and like other player character or NPC to come and offer you emotional support, and then you can remove your conditions. Or you can take a destructive action to do so, but it has to have negative in-game consequences or it doesn't count. So, this character has a special thing where if you give or receive emotional support with someone new, each mark XP and clear a condition. You each mark XP and clear a condition, not just one of you, essentially. I mean, that can be a form of emotional support, depending on if you're smitten or not. Actually, there's a whole, like there's a kiss in a, finally kissing in a moment thing that if both players agree, and it's actually a move. And that, yeah, it's finally kiss, and you both get a bonus to get away safely if you have a kiss at a dramatic moment. But you both have to agree as players and characters that this is, yes, you want to kiss. But if you do, and you go for it, you can... Yeah, okay, so the 5... it is pretty cool. Let's see, the 5 conditions are angry. It gives you -2 penalty to figure out a person. Frightened. Freeze, flee, or fawn over the source of your fear. You may be unable to sleep or concentrate because of your worry. And you get a -2 penalty to fight. Guilty. Ruminate on your guilt or seek reassurance. -2 to emotional support for other people. Hopeless. You might give up on a goal or interest or despair out loud. And it's -2 to defy disaster. Insecure. You might read far too much into an interaction, or you might confront an object of jealousy. You might cling to connection, or fish for compliments. And a -2 to entice if you're insecure. Several moves allow you to clear conditions. When you offer someone emotional support, they may choose to clear a condition. Happens immediately when pick the option. Providing emotional support doesn't just lead to rewarding roleplay moments, it's also an important way to recover after confrontation. Conspicuously role-playing character with conditions can be a good reminder to the other players that your character could use some support. You may also simply ask or suggest a supportive scene. NPCs may be so distressed they have conditions of their own, which you can clear using moves like emotional support, just as you would for PCs. If an NPC has a condition and a mechanic gives you an opportunity to clear it, they will generally choose that option. For each condition, there's also a destructive action the PC can take to clear the condition. If a character doesn't get emotional support, they're more likely to act out in a toxic or harmful way. They need to clear the condition provides the impetus to create some messy, fun drama for the PCs. NPCs do not clear conditions via destructive actions. Unlike the move that allow you to clear condition right away, destructive actions allow you to clear condition at the end of the scene in which you act out. Some mechanics may instruct you to take a condition that can only be cleared by making associated destructive action. Note these with an asterisk or other reminder when you mark the condition. Destructive actions. Anger is break something important to you or someone you care about. Frightened, run away and leave something important behind. Guilty, sacrifice something important just to hurt yourself for what you've done. Hopeless, lose yourself in escapism or pleasure when you should be doing something important. Insecure, take rash action to confront the object of your jealousy or prove your worth without conferring with friends or making a plan first. You can inflict conditions on both NPCs and fellow PCs. The player in charge of the affected character should choose a condition that they haven't marked yet, guided by the narrative situation. Many confrontations end with de-escalation, seduction, or discovery of a new twist. If, however, you're trading barbs or blow with an adversary and you really want to defeat them and take them out of the action, The way you achieve this is by piling on conditions. The GM decides how many conditions a particular NPC can take, depending on how formidable the NPC is. Some foes are so readily overcome by the PC's powers they crumble without a roll of the dice. More capable individuals are defeated upon taking one or more conditions. Some opponents may be defeated as soon as they suffer a single condition, while other more formidable adversaries are only defeated when they suffer all 5 conditions. Beware, when a powerful adversary suffers a condition, they are likely to lash out. Some adversaries automatically respond to taking a condition, for instance, by calling for backup, conjuring a ring of rage-filled fire to cut off escape, or starting the countdown on their ultimate weapon. More information about narrative responses can be found on page 89. Being defeated partly deprives the character of the agency, at least for the rest of the scene. For NPCs, the person who took them out gets to propose how this happens, in keeping with the fiction that led to the defeat. An opposing duelist might surrender, be knocked out, or even killed. The pompous aristocrat might be unable to continue arguing because they faint, are booed out of the room, or succumb to the poison the trickster slipped in their drink. GM can veto proposals that are in keeping with the fiction and the NPC's personality. Bear in mind that inflicting conditions is emotionally violent and sometimes physically violent. Defeating someone this way is not usually going to get them to see common ground with you or grow as a person, and it leaves them distraught at best. That said, some things are worth fighting for, and conflict is often necessary before oppression and toxic behavior can be halted. Besides, even friends can hurt each other's feelings, and no one is perfect, particularly not the complex, conflicted PCs and thirsty sword lesbians. Oh, and the string system. So, that's how conditions work. See, basically the string system. String represents an emotional influence over another person. This could be the affection of a friend or a lover, or it could be blackmail material. Think of heartstrings. When you gain a string on someone, make a note of it in your playbook. You might also find it helpful to use colored tokens or different types of coins to donate strings. For instance, the beast player chooses red tokens. When you gain a string on them, take a red token and keep it where the others can see. At the end of each session, record strings by writing them down or taking photos of the tokens. The basic move Influence with a string describes how you can spend strings to influence others for good or ill, and several of the basic moves and playbook moves become stronger if you spend a string, noted in the descriptions of the moves. And sometimes moves will dictate that you get a string. For example, Lust at First Sight. When you become smitten with someone you barely know, declare undying love, lose smitten with anyone with no strings on you, and then you get a +1 to impress the new crush. And you have to give them a string. Or then Fool's Rushing. When you act foolishly and get in over your head, give someone dangerous to you a string, mark XP, and get +1 forward to defy disaster. So, if, yeah. So you get a +1 on desperate attempts to figure something out because you gave someone dangerous to a string, but you also get XP, so there's that. Basically, you get XP anytime a move tells you to mark XP. You get XP anytime someone does a, depending on the way your rule set, but it does have a written set by which you can get XP if someone uses a safety tool, such as like checking in to make sure everyone's comfortable, or vetoing something because it makes them uncomfortable, etc., etc. Which they have a whole list of those, which I think is useful. I'm in favor of more informal setup, but I know that can be hard for some people, especially if you don't know them that well. So I think it depends on some people need hard lines, some people are chill with just going by feel and trusting the GM not to do anything really triggering for them. It depends on how you want to do it. But yeah. But if anyone uses any kind of safety tool, you get an XP. Basically, they have a ruling on that just to kind of encourage people to, not put themselves in situations that make them uncomfortable. Influence with the string. So you basically... No. Basically, no. It's a role-playing game that... Hi, welcome, also. I'm Lee. Kind of she-her vibes today, but here they is fine. What was I gonna... Oh, yes. So, the campaign... This is... I haven't built the campaign yet. Basically, this is a brand new role-playing system that it uses D6. and there's all sorts of different mechanics, and basically it's very much emotional based. So instead of chipping down XP, what you do is you end up with conditions that put you in emotional distress, and then when you get enough conditions, you are out of the action, either unconscious, panic attacking in a corner, dead, depending on the level of play and how intense, your you want to play that. But yeah, so and if you get conditions, you get minuses to certain rolls. But yeah, no, this is a whole new role playing system called Thirsty Sword Lesbians that I'm babbling about because it's really cool, and I was going to do character creation, but apparently you guys hadn't heard of it. I know it is. It's really cool. Also, hi, welcome. You're new, I think, but welcome. Both of you are new, actually. So always good to have new friends. I love it when people say hi in the chat. I'm always open if you want to ask a question or say, okay, this is kind of boring, or can you skip to this part, or whatever. Just let me know. I'm open for that. I'm very exciting. I was building a character in Thirsty Sword Lesbians because I had another introduction to Thirsty Sword Lesbian stream earlier. Which I guess a couple people went to, but don't know you guys. So, I started creating this character. I was reading through it, and I created this character. Who I haven't named. I almost always ask people in the chat to name my characters. I do have a few random roll tables I could use, but all of those ones are this is one of these things. Yes, there we go. This random roll table here, I forgot I still had it up, is all of the playbooks, all of the different, I guess, character classes and stuff that you can get with, the Thirsty Sword Lesbians. I have the rulebook. I have a copy, PDF. I don't know where you can get it. Let's see. It's Evil Hat Productions, is the company, I think, that made it. They did a Kickstarter for it. Evil Hat Productions. Gay Spaceship Games. I'm sure you could get a copy. I don't know where you would get it because, Trove shut down, and also it's kind of new, and still in print, so, I wouldn't. Well, anyway. But yeah, if you can figure out where to get a copy, this image here, actually, is the cover art for the RPG, for the book. I have a PDF copy, so I copied it and put the image up. So, actually, hang on, let me see, because credit where credit's due. It was the image, creator. April Kilt Walsh was the creator and designer, and Kanesha C. Bryant drew the cover art. So, oh, that's Creative Commons. Okay. Licensing numbers. Playtesters and proofread. Okay, yeah. I don't know. I'm sure you could find it. Give me half a second. Let me do some research. Keyboard. There we go. Yeah. Here we go. It is, it is, yeah, let's see. Oh. Um, uh, uh, um, so, it's the the PDF is $15, and here I'll post a link. If I had any players, I could also share copies, but here, let me do this. I would encourage buying it because it's actually there. There we go. Yeah, it's $15 for the PDF, and yeah, actually it was a good idea. Yeah, it is pretty cool. And I got it on the Kickstarter because I saw it and I was like, yes, I want this. So I got it from the Kickstarter, and I'm very glad I did. But what? Oh, yeah, it is super cool. Oh, what was I gonna? Oh yes, so I haven't gotten to the setting. Ooh, there's setting guide. There's like a whole bunch of setting guides, and I haven't even looked at those yet because I was going. Let's see. There's different playbooks, basically, and moves. Let's see, special moves, danger moves, heartstring moves, recovery moves, special moves. So you know there's the if you seek. Yeah, this one is actually slightly. Well, it's very here. It's different because each it's very differently structured. Because it's not a bunch of like, the fighting is very. There's one move called fight. I think there's a secondary system where you can get like 4 different moves, but when you seek to incapacitate someone with violence, roll plus daring or plus grace. If you get more than a 10, you choose 3 and your opponent chooses 1 to apply to you in response. If you get a 7 through 9, you get to choose 2 and your opponent chooses 1. And so the 4 options are flirt with or provoke your opponent to gain a string on them. Through violence or cutting words, inflict a condition. That's basically how you defeat them. How you really incapacitate someone is to just constantly inflict condition. Create an opportunity for an ally through prowess or distraction. Tape an object for your component or seize a superior position. So you can you get to pick if you get a 7 through 9 on 2d10s with adding grace or daring, which is a +1 or +2 depending on your character, or -1 if you're really clumsy. Yes, you provoke opponent, and you can gain a string, which is an emotional tie that you can then use to influence them later. Inflict a condition, which is part of a series of bringing them down enough to defeat. Create an opportunity for an ally through prowess or distraction. Take object from your opponent. You may not pick the same option more than once for a single fight move. For instance, you can't take 3 strings on a roll of 10 or more. You get a string and inflict a condition and support an ally. Fighting always has a cost, even when you roll 10+. It takes a toll on you because your opponent always gets to choose an option from the list as well. You're capable and skilled, but you'll likely need some emotional support after a violent encounter. So they can impose conditions on you as well, which complicates things. Still, sometimes fighting is necessary. If your opponent is irredeemable, pile on conditions that they no longer pose a threat. An adversary is defeated after they take a certain number of conditions, from 1 to 5, depending on how formidable they are. Remember, just because you're crossing sword with someone doesn't necessarily mean you're rolling the fight move. If your intent is to figure them out... Oh, sorry, that's uncouth. Roll that move. You might entice them or defy disaster on behalf of someone else. Roll this move when you're feeling trading blows and seeking to degrade opponent's ability to fight. If you take something from the opponent, don't get too philosophical or abstract. You have to be justified in fiction. You might cut through their belt or snatch the rod of power, or even seize the high ground or take control of the starship from them. You should be trying to take their will to fight, their lungs, or their planet. Look for things that are more in line with the scale of the other options. In addition, you might not take a PC sword without the player's consent, except through a GM move or if the player is defeated. Being deprived of your sword doesn't have to be a mechanical effect, but people are emotionally attached to them. It's kind of a thing. There's a lot of ones that you can't use on other PCs without the players explicitly agreeing to it, because, you know, it's a very intense and emotional sort of role-playing game, so people generally, there's whole, you know, sections on making sure that you're you know, you don't take it too far. Fight comes into play when a PC seeks to incapacitate someone. Many of the options provide narrative pathways to resolving conflict in different ways. Strings suggest emotional vulnerability, allies get new opportunities, and you can take things from your opponent or change the circumstances of the conflict. This, along with many other options available to PCs, means that it's rare to simply slug it out with an opponent by repeatedly choosing to fight them. If two PCs seek to fight, first make sure that incapacitating each other is the intent. It's quite possible that someone's actually seeking figure out entice someone instead. If not their opponent, then potentially an onlooker. And make sure it's not a proxy for out-of-character dispute. Yes, exactly. You flirt, you fight, you try to take down what's called toxic powers. Basically, it's a stand-in for the patriarchy. There's a whole section on that you can't play if you're a bigot, if you're transphobic, or if you're transphobic or sexist or racist. Like, you cannot play. It specifically states in the rules that you're not supposed to. I mean, people can disregard that, but I like that they specifically say in the rules that, yeah, you can't play if you're transphobic or racist. Not cool. Which I like. Also, it says if you're against people who are neurodivergent or other things. Or don't believe that people in poverty deserve dignity and basic stuff like that. No! Oh, goodness, no! I didn't write any of this. I just am a really big fan of it. So I backed it on Kickstarter, like I said, and I was a big fan of it, and for this channel, I usually just I do Pathfinder, which is similar to Dungeons and Dragons, and I do world building and you know, go over rules and do character creation live on stream, and read from the rule books and generally kind of work my way through them and kind of share in the creative process with the viewers. That's my kind of thing. So I was going to do a whole thing where I created Thirsty Sword Lesbian characters, but if people aren't familiar with the game, yeah, no, goodness no, I didn't. The most I did was create a character based on, and then fill out a playbook for it. I've created whole worlds. I can build worlds. Game mechanics, I did create my own system of game mechanics once, for a RPG, and it isn't nearly as cool as Thirsty Sword Lesbians, I will say. It's, yeah. I mean, I think I put it up online somewhere. You can buy it somewhere, but like, it was just, I didn't get very far. I started a whole proper core rulebook, and then I just stopped halfway through because I got, you know, distracted. But I did write about half of a core rulebook for my own thing, but it's not nearly as cool as this one. There we go. Knew I could do it. Yeah, no, I didn't write Thirsty Sword Lesbians. I actually can. Let me read again. Who is it? Let's see. If I go back to 25. Okay, so I can get back there easily enough. But, let's see. April Kit Walsh is the creator and designer, and then the cover is Kanesha C. Bryant, who did that picture with the two lesbian. Well, I mean, when you come up with game mechanics, you base them on other game mechanics. You kind of, yeah, I mean, you kind of work with what like that's why a lot of systems use D20s. Thirsty Sword Lesbians is very similar to Monster of the Week in terms of the way the D6 theory. I don't know which one came first or if they're by the same people. I just heard of it from a friend. It was like, oh yeah, the playbook system with the 2D6, that sounds a lot like Monster of the Week. I'm like, oh, okay. I think all the moves, the flirting moves, and how the emotional support, that's very indicative of this specifically. They came up with that. That wasn't even. Yeah, I have a great love of tabletop RPGs and a great respect for the designers. So I mean, I think almost everyone's done homebrew for D&D at some point. It's so ubiquitous. 5th edition is so ubiquitous in the world that I've created, homebrew or, magical items or anything for Pathfinder. Nothing more, and the setting. I'm more world building than rules creation. I mean, I was doing Sword Timber, which is this whole prompt of magical weapons that I've been creating slowly, one per day. I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do for today's, which is Banished, but, probably a hammer. But, sorry. Anyway, what's I gonna... Oh, yeah. So, I was going over the moves for here. That's pretty cool, actually. Magic the Gathering apparently has like a lot of lore that's just in the background that is really interesting if you look into it. I haven't much, but I heard it's like intense. Here, let me go back here. We're gonna do this. Oh. I mean, it does. I mean, yeah, there is some crazy. I mean, not as much as, say, Warhammer 40k, I don't think. But still quite a bit of lore. Alright. But alright, back to these ones, because these ones are... Sorry. If species really wish to fight, both characters roll the move and take turns resolving each option selected, role-playing out what it looks like in the fiction. If one or both PCs are defeated during the resolution, they still get to resolve the other effects of their move before they're incapacitated. So if your opponent inflicts condition as their first choice and that defeats you, you still get to make all your choices, take strings, inflict conditions, etc. I mean, yeah, I haven't played Magic the Gathering since college, so it's probably done a lot. They have D&D cards now, which is kind of cool. This game doesn't focus on PCs doing violence to one another, and it's generally going to cause the PCs a heap of trouble, but sometimes feelings run hot and PCs do foolish things. If you want to focus on... oh, yes, there's a duel between PCs. The expanded fight move list is 189. That, yeah, 189, which has some fun little, like, lunging and defensive moves and stuff. I think there's like 4 moves and they do different things to each other. It's like rocks, paper, scissors, but with there's actually an example. They have example texts, which is kind of cool. I think it's really fun. I'm going to read it out. Hannah the Scoundrel and Lucia the Chosen have just rescued the rebel leader from the evil space empire when Death Baron steps between them and their starship. Joe's Hannah. Time to find another way out. No, this is our best chance of taking down Death Baron before he sends another planet to the Nightmare Zone. I ignite my laser sword. In the name of the free people of the 5 stars, surrender or face justice. Sadie. GM's name is Sadie in this one. As Death Baron. I accept your foolhardy challenge, girl. He conjures a blade of crackling black lightning and advances on you at an unhurried pace. Joe. As Hannah. We've got a bad feeling about this. I get out my trusted whip sword and wish it were made of lasers and lightning too. Lucia, you can only you only say that because I'm acting against my destiny, and I'll pay for that later, but it'll be worth it. I leap high in the air and bring my laser sword down on him. I rolled a 7. Good enough. I get 2 choices, so I definitely want to inflict a condition, and I think for the second choice I'm going to distract him so that path to escape is clear for Hannah and the rebel leader. Sadie is GM. Yeah, that works. For the condition, I think you've made him angry. In terms of distracting him, yeah, that could go either creating an opportunity or taking his position from him. So sure, let's do it. He's completely focused on you, but you feel like it's not just because you're pissing him off. He gets to choose one of the options from your fight move, and he's actually going to take a string on you. It's not a sexy string. Instead, what happens is you've locked swords, and the flickering light from the sparks, you see yourself reflected in his visor, and it feels like he's gazed right into your soul and seen some secret truth there. Let's see, yeep. And now he's going to lash out because you made him angry. Can I just mention that the rebel leader and I are out of here? Thanks for the distraction, sweetheart. And that is, yeah, that's kind of an example scene of what you could do when you're... They have some fun ones here, in terms of... example fights. Oh, and then there's Defy Disaster. Another move you can make instead of fighting. When you push your limits or achieve something extraordinary that's not covered by another move, or avert an imminent danger to yourself or someone else, say what you're willing to sacrifice and pick your approach. If you're using might, endurance, or courage, it's a plus daring. Swiftness or elegance, it's grace. Charm or social insight, it's plus heart. Cleverness or knowledge is plus wit. Willpower or metaphysical skill is plus spirit. 10 or more, do it with style. At the GM's discretion, you may also learn some new information, discover a new opportunity, or gain a string on someone. 7 through 9. The GM will offer you a hard choice to succeed with a sacrifice. Justified as a catch-all move that represents the broad range of situations that pose significant narrative tension but don't neatly fit into the other moves. It also used when an obstacle is so formidable that you can't even get into narrative position to make another move without first facing danger. For instance, some people are so fearsome and mesmerizing that you have to defy a disaster just to get into a position to fight or entice them. In many cases, the PC can overcome dangerous situations without any kind of roll. You don't need to reach for the dice every time there's a possibility of a character failing. Protagonists and thirsty sword lesbians don't need to roll to swing on a chandelier, spot clues at a crime scene, or make good time as they rush to reach a wedding in time to stop it. Let them swing on the chandelier as part of getting into position to move, or just look cool. Tell them the physical evidence they see at the crime scene and focus on the investigation of the people involved. Have them arrive at the most dramatic moment in the nick of time. If they fail to stop the wedding, it shouldn't be because the horses were too slow, but because of how the drama unfolds once they're on the scene. Which is an interesting take. I do like to sometimes, when I'm playing D&D anyway, to add things like that. I'm not entirely sold on the idea that sometimes it just doesn't go wrong. It can add a lot of narrative tension and play out differently if things are different. But so yeah, I do like to have possibility of failures at different steps along the way that aren't just at the key moment. But I get where they're coming from in terms of the role play, is to have it go down like that. When triggering this move, the danger can be physical. leap across a fire pit while archers shoot at you, or social. Breach protocol to cut the line and bring your urgent warning to the sovereign. You may be trying to smuggle contraband propaganda past the guards without them noticing, or struggling to keep from wisecracking during a prophet's speech. Choose a stat that makes sense. Often several stats are fine choices, but no stat fits every situation. GM has final say. You may also defy disaster when harm is threatening to befall another person. You can generally only do this between moves. You can't save a person from a direct mechanical consequence of a move they're resolving. For instance, if the spooky witch rolls fight move and her opponent chooses to inflict a condition on her, you can't interrupt that consequence. Which makes sense. Um, Often, however, GM will announce dangers looming. The giant sweeps her club towards someone, or the real countess is about to enter the throne room and spoil the trickster's attempt to impersonate her. This is your best opportunity to defy disaster to avert the danger. If it's not clear, check with the GM. GM will make more of these softer setup moves in a game that has more escapist or power fantasy tones and inflict more direct consequences if the tone of the game is heavier. Also remember to check with the other player, since they may want to take on the challenge without interference. Defy disaster requires GM to think on their feet and be a bit more than moves with precisely defined effects, particularly on a mixed beat, which is 7 through 9. When in doubt, take inspiration from what the PC was willing to sacrifice, or give a dangerous NPC a string on the PC as the cost of success. The string could represent something like the PC's smug observation of the NPC's smug observation of the PC's brush with danger, or the NPC unexpectedly aiding the PC. And remember that the PC didn't roll a downbeat, so don't give them success at a cost equivalent to failing. The sacrifice should be less than the danger they are trying to avert, or at least different, even in the game with a more serious tone. On an upbeat, the GM should make sure that the result is satisfying in a narrative sense. If defying disaster results in an achievement that moves the story forward, that certainly qualifies. Otherwise, give the PC an additional opportunity as a result of the upbeat, perhaps impressing an NPC who offers a new approach, or learning a secret information that could be actionable later in the story. If you create a setting that has frequent, repeated sources of danger, you may want to create a custom move to represent it. Ooh, customizing basic moves. There's a whole section on it. I am not unintrigued, but oh, here's an example one. You can see the resolve in Ryuko's eyes as she levels her glaive at your heart. She's not here to talk. If you want to do anything other than fight her, you'll need to defy disaster first. I should give that context. Masako the Devastated did just learn that the masked vigilante who has been executing her supposed evildoers is none other than her childhood friend Ryuko. You can see the resolve in her eyes. She's not here to talk. If you want to do anything other than fight, you'll need to defy disaster first. What, Ryuko? Why? I don't want to fight. I guess I better just avoid her blows until I can find out why she's doing this. That'd be Grace, right? Yes, Grace would be right for you to using agility to just dodge and parry. Oh, wait, could I use heart to try to defy disaster by appealing to our friendship? Try and make her hesitate because of our history together? Absolutely. What do you say to her? I don't even draw my sword. I just meet her eyes so she can see I still care about her, and I don't understand why she's doing this. Ryuko, I don't know what happened to you since I left home, but I know you. You don't want to hurt me. Her eyes glint as she considers her word. Roll 'em. Masako rolls a 6. And then GM says, once, a long time ago, I thought I knew you, too. I guess we were both wrong. She comes at you, and as familiar as her style is, this just makes it more unsettling to see her deadly intent as you narrowly avoid being run through. I think you're going to mark the frightened condition, and don't forget to mark the XP for that less than 6 roll, or 6 or less roll. Fighting sounds right. Does this mean I have to fight her now? No, you faced danger and took the consequences. Just because you rolled downbeat doesn't mean you're stuck fighting. Okay, because I want to figure out what on earth she's thinking. So, a 6 or less is considered a downbeat. So if you get a 6 or less, you basically have to take a negative consequence, and sometimes you still get partly positive consequences, but not always. A mixed beat is a 7 through 9, and you get some of what you want, but also gets another, it's downgraded. And then if you get a 12 or a 10 to 12, you get an upbeat, basically. Upbeat, downbeat, or mixed beat are the 3 types of things you can get, results you can get. And for example, with the fighting, if you get an upbeat, you get to pick 2. If you get a downbeat, you get to pick 3. If you get a mixed beat, you get to pick 2, and then you get 1 applied to you. If you get an upbeat, you get 3 and get 1 applied to you. If you get a downbeat, I think you just get 1 applied to you. Even if, because you fail at fighting, so they just get to pick 1 thing to apply to you, and you don't even get anything to apply to them because downbeat. And there's, in the GM section, there's a whole thing about what you can do for downbeats and how you impose proper consequences and such on your players. Sorry. And then there's stagger is a reactive move. Which is if you basically the DM just tells you if you suffered a staggering physical or emotional blow, you have to choose an option blow based on the number of conditions you have marked. I mean, I don't necessarily want a green screen. Oh, I could do a well, no, the zoom background lets you do like a basic. I don't know what kind of green screen I would do. Like, it wouldn't be, if I did a green screen, it would be kind of like, yeah, I could post another background on, but it'd still be, me, and I'd still be as inarticulate occasionally as I am, you know what I mean? I suppose it would help me do cool video effects. But it wouldn't, save me from stuttering or getting distracted or any of the myriad other things that, No, it's a good idea. I didn't think of it. No, that is a good idea. Actually, cheap green shower curtain might work. I don't know if I have the technical expertise to figure out what to do with a green screen. Like, I could probably figure it out, but it would just be green because I couldn't figure out how to. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to do it. I'm sure to replace the green with something and other stuff. I just need to figure out what it is. But yeah. Yeah, I've never used a green screen before, actually. I'm very simple. I'm learning. I just figured out how I can have the chat up and still read the PDF. So, and I haven't figured out how to show the PDF on the screen yet, but I figured out how to set it up so that if I can see the chat while I'm reading, so that's cool. But you can use sever a staggering or physical blow. If you have 4 or 5 conditions, you are rendered helpless for the scene. Utterly humiliated, and news will spread. This could be a consequence of a setback to the confrontation, or you might be caused something you confess by something confessing in the moment. Choose 2 from the 0 to 3 condition options. So you can either be rendered helpless, be utterly humiliated, or take 2 from the lesser condition list. And if you have 0 to 3 conditions, you lash out at someone whose regard matters to you, provoke them to do something foolish or harmful, and take advantage of a string on them if you have one. You hesitate or stumble, and the opposition gains an opportunity. Or you grin and bear the blow, mark 2 conditions. Yeah, so if you don't have any conditions, you can take 2. This move triggers when someone in the fiction seriously shakes their character's emotional or physical well-being. This is often the result of a GM move, and the darker the tone, the more the GM will invoke this move. If someone occurs in a fiction that seems to qualify, though, you can invoke this move yourself to zoom in on the emotional consequences for your character. Typically, the kind of blow that would cause a stagger is more severe than any that merely inflicts a condition. The blow won't be physically staggering, like getting blasted with a laser beam or thrown off the balcony. It might be more emotional, like having someone's word target you deep insecurities or facing betrayal of a loved one. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll have to end the stream soon anyway, because I have to go to work. But, yeah. And I stream quite often. I'll try to post a schedule, so come join me anytime. But yeah. Bye. There's an example piece for that one too, actually. Cannonball tears your ship and explodes, sending splinters of wood in all directions. You can see the mast is cracked and the crew is panicking. Go ahead and stagger. Alondra, played by Bonnie. I only have one condition marked, frightened, but you know what? I'll grin and bear it. Alondra, the pirate princess, doesn't stagger, she swaggers. At least that's how it looks. I'll have to mark 2 guard conditions for that option. On the inside, I'm insecure and hopeless. I'm pretty sure I've just lost my ship, my family's legacy, and that hurts even more than the shrapnel of wooden splinters. Yeah. So then you got moves like, so those are the 3 physical violence moves, is staggering. And then you got things like the heartstring moves. Entice, when you appeal to someone's physical or emotional sensibilities. If you get a plus at rolling with plus heart. If a 10 or more, you get a string on them and they choose 1. And if it's a 7 through 9, either you gain a string on them or they choose 1. And they can choose 3 negative consequences. So yeah, they basically, if you get an upbeat on the entice, they get to choose the negative consequences. I guess if you're rolling against NPC, the DM chooses them. A 7 through 9 is get flustered and awkward, promise something they think you want, or give in to desire. Enticing someone is the most basic way to get strings on them. You might also find someone else at the table suggesting that you roll entice them because the PC has just done something very sexy and romantic, even without intending to. Because your PC has just done something incredibly sexy or romantic, even without intending to. This move does not require that your character intend to turn the other person on. If you try to entice someone in a way that the player doesn't think would work, you have a few options for resolving that. The player could tell you an alternative approach that might fit their character better, and you can rewind. You could decide to abandon the move and make the story in another direction. You can explain the move's effect in a way that makes sense with the narrative. You gain a string on them because their reaction helps you understand them better. They get flustered and awkward because they're uncomfortable, or they promise you something to make the awkwardness stop. This move builds in elements of safety and collaboration by giving the choice to the target of the move. And with the wording of the PC, and with the wording of the given to desire option, the target has to desire a course of action to be enticed into it. Occasionally, a GM may allow you to direct and entice at a group of people. This may cause them to collectively become flustered and awkward, offer you something, or give in to desire. Or one of them might give you a string, or choose one of the options. This is a main move for directly influencing people and getting strings on them, but if it doesn't fit, consider trying to figure out a person and asking what they care about and what would make them change their minds. And of course, any means of getting a string on someone can be used to influence them by spending the string. So Vash the Infamous has just leapt onto the moving chariot driven by Lady of Chains. I know she's had a thing for me ever since I defected from her service, so I'm standing on her chariot, hair whipping in the wind, and pressed close. Fighting isn't really what you want, is it? Nice. Give me an entice roll. Oh, that's a 4. Amazing. Alright, first of all, mark XP for that downbeat. So you're pressing close and you feel the cold metal of her chains against your skin and the heat of her breath against your lips. Oh no, I'm the one getting seduced, aren't I? Give her a string. Then you feel a metal collar clamped around your neck and chains tug you down to stand against the inside of the chariot. You've missed this, haven't you? She said. It's not exactly a question. Yeah. So, sometimes if you try and entice and things go wrong, they go really wrong. Downbeats, the DM can impose a lot of consequences for downbeats. But, what was I going to say? Oh, yes. Entice rolls. That's the kind of thing I, for example, would never let an NPC roll. Well, maybe I would. But, I would be very cautious in having an NPC roll an entice. Yeah, the XP thing. So the way XP works is you get XP every time you roll a downbeat. You get XP, there's the safety measures that they have in place that you get XP for marking, which I'm more for a less formal approach to boundaries, like you talk about it and you agree beforehand and don't, because I feel like formalized can stifle, discourage and stifle, but I understand that it helps a lot of people, so, if you're using those safety measures, of course you can give XP for it, or you would give XP for it. And then you also give XP at the end if, basically you give 1 XP per player if anyone does something cool. So if someone at the table, does some sort of really epic thing, you give everyone XP. That's kind of the rule of it, just to, encourage role-play and excitement and things like that. Then you got, here, the other 2 moves, which is Figure It Out, which is, you roll a wit, and then you can add 3 to the roll if you spend a string. A plus 10, if it's a 10 or more, you get 2 questions that you can ask them. And then if you get a 7 or 9, you get to ask 2 questions, but they get to ask you 1 question. And then the questions are, what are your feelings toward something, what do you hope to get from blank? Basically, blank would be fill in with whatever makes sense in the moment. Feel toward me, feel toward our friend, feel toward your mother, something like that. Whatever makes sense in context. How could I get you to do this thing I want you to do? What do you love the most? How would you feel if I blank? The characters you encounter likely have hidden agendas, private desires, and intense angst. When you talk or observe a person, you can invoke this move to learn more about them and the truth. Your character doesn't have to literally ask questions from the list, and the other character doesn't necessarily speak the answers aloud. Rather, you can infer the answers from their body language, careful observation, or metaphysical or technological sensing. If you're having trouble coming up with a rationale for how you learn information, call it intuition. And then there's influence with a string. At any time, spend a string on someone to do one of the following. Offer them XP to do something. And you don't have to spend the string if they refuse the temptation. Find out what it will take to get them to do what you want. For an NPC, spend a string means they simply agree. Spending a string means they simply agree. For a PC, have to do some stuff. I might make for certain other NPCs that you have to, you can add a string at after any roll to get a +1. Add or subtract 1 from any roll they make after rolling. Each character may only spend 1 string to add or subtract from a given roll. Narratively, spending a string represents one character wielding their emotional influence over another. They might be persuading or tempting another character to take a certain course of action, represented by the mechanical temptation to take the XP bribe. They might be taking advantage of their insight or burning some goodwill to figure out what it would take to get someone to do what they want. This influence also lets them figure out just how to help or hurt the other character. Only PCs have XP and make rolls. When you influence NPCs, you may figure out what it will take to do what it will take to get them to do what you want, or use strings to alter rolls made to interact with them. I'm not so big on the NPCs not getting to roll, but that's as a that's it. Oh, and then there's Smitten, which is the last of the heartstring moves. I have to go to work soon, but I really enjoyed going over this stuff. Like, I was going to do character creation, like, I had this whole character figured out, but, like, I don't mind going over the rules, especially if people don't, yeah, it does make the GM's job a little easier, but, it's just, I don't know, I become attached to NPCs and want to give them agency. Maybe that's just me. When you become smitten with someone, always your choice. So if you want to become smitten, you can declare, you have to declare smittenness. You say why, give them a string on you, and answer the question in the Truths of Heart and Blade section of your playbook. And then for Beast, it's what have you done that you surely view as inappropriate? Chosen, how do our respective stations make it impossible to be together? Devoted, how does pursuing them conflict with your devotion? Infamous, why do you think they would be wrong to forgive you? Nature Witch, what is the clear challenge to being with them that you're overlooking because of your naivete? Scoundrel, why would your romance never last? Seeker, which of your values do you openly violate or decry? Which of your values do they openly violate or decry? Spooky Witch, what obvious thing about you are they surely would make them reject you? Trickster, what secret do you have that you think would make them reject you if they knew? The purpose is twofold. First, you signal the rest of the table that there's something important that your character is feeling. Second, you describe the one reason why that romance is fraught and interesting. The GM may introduce other obstacles as well. There's no hard and fast trigger other than the player's choice. People fall in love for many different reasons. Give it some thought whenever someone makes you blush or swoon, or if they gather multiple strings related to the way you feel about them. You also feel free to declare you are no longer smitten at any time. In a particular action-packed scene, wait until the end of the scene to resolve the smitten move to keep the action flowing. You can still declare that you're smitten in the middle of the action, but resolve it at the end. You may become smitten as early as character creation if you feel so moved. The reason you always answer the same question each time you're smitten is because each playbook revolves around central emotional conflict, which keeps occurring and causing trouble in your life until you resolve it. If, however, the question doesn't speak to your character's conflict, feel free to rewrite it into something that has bite and creates the kind of drama and challenge you want for your character. Oh, this is the one I was talking about earlier. Finally, kiss in a dangerous situation. When people finally kiss after a period of tension, each takes +1 ongoing to get to safety and protect the other from the rest of the scene. If more than 2 people finally kiss in these circumstances, they all get the bonus. Each participant must be enthusiastic about kissing to trigger the move. Like I said, you gotta be into it. If you're both into it, character and player, that's it. And then there's recovery moves. There's emotional support. When you offer someone support in a way that could be meaningful to them, roll heart or spirit. +3 if you spend a string. +10 if they open up, they choose one and either you choose one or take a string on them. and if you get a 7 through 9, if they open up, choose one, and the one you get to choose is, let's see, they choose one and you choose one. Clear condition, mark XP, +1 forward, so +1 in the next roll. Gain insight from the GM about an obstacle facing one of you. It's mostly for the clear conditions, because honestly, that's pretty much the only way to recover them without hurting you. If they're smitten with you, they may choose an additional option. If you're smitten with them and they refuse to open up to you, it stings and you get a condition. Crucial part of Sorcery Sword Lesbians and emotional support move exists to motivate and complicate those moments. First of all, there's no central way the characters can help one another recover from conditions. This is the central way. Secondly, it can be a ton of fun when emotional support goes awry. Maybe you put your foot in your mouth by saying just the wrong thing, or maybe you're starting to forge a deep connection and your lips are just an inch away when their window, from there is when the window shatters and your nemesis rolls in, sword drawn. It means different things to different people. It might be heartfelt conversations, sitting quietly watching the flow of a river, or blowing off steam with a rough and tumble match of space derby or a roll in the hay. A person might open up by spilling their life story, or by shedding a single silent tear and leaning against their friend's shoulder. Whatever feels meaningful to the characters is fair play. It's entirely possible that your caring gesture prompts the recipient to become smitten. In this case, you get the benefits of being smitten with you, and you may choose an additional option from the list. For ease of play, resolve emotional support first and then the smitten move. You can also provide emotional support to NPCs. An NPC will generally open up to you if they have a condition, if they have unusual circumstances, for instance, or if you know, if you or your known allies have a condition, they may not open up to you. The GM will decide. In the stories told with this game, people who are hurting are often open and a little bit vulnerable with PCs, and perhaps more than you might expect. And then there's Call on a Toxic Power, which means you parlay with the bad guys. Ask your question and roll plus spirit. They answer your question and grant you +1 forward to act on the information. And then they answer the question and the GM chooses one. Take something from you, either knowledge, reputation, or something physical. You mark a condition, or the power gains a string. The world you inhabit likely contains toxic power such as evil gods, exploitative corporations, oppressive space popes, patriarchal governments. You can approach them and may even find it helpful at times, but those with strong spirit can engage with them and emerge unscathed. Blah. Okay. I just want to see are there other ones? Oh yeah, at the end of every session, each player marks XP if, during the session, any PC confessed their love, any PC struck a go against an oppression or de-escalated violent situation, any PC leapt into danger with daring and panache, any player used a safety practice such as adding to the pallet or checking in. So each PC marks XP for the condition met by anyone in the group. So, like I said, basically, if you do something cool and you get an XP. Everyone at the table gets XP if you do something cool. I've kind of amalgamated that, but yeah. And then you get an XP if it says to mark XP for a move, or if you get a downbeat. So, interpret this move broadly and look for reasons to celebrate aspects of play, not reasons to deny the XP. So yeah, just, it's cool. And XP rewards exist primarily if the group take a moment to reflect on heroic and intense moments in the story, to thank players who helped foster a culture of mutual care by looking out for one another, or for their own well-being. So yeah, it's basically pretty cool. And then there's the whole, so that's all of the moves. I didn't get to go into all of them intensely, but there's some fun ones, and the playbooks and relationships. There's a lot of cool stuff. I also, though, have to go to work today, and I really should eat something before work, and so I'm going to have to end the stream. But I really am glad that all of you came. This is a much more people than usually have, and I really appreciate that. So, all of you have a really good day, and I will I promise I'll do other Thirsty Sword lesbian streams, because it's cool stuff. And I'll try to remember to post my schedule on Twitch, so, like, it's actually there and not... I do tend to post them on random other forums, but I feel like I should post it on Twitch. I'll do that for... I definitely have a stream on Monday at some point. I'll have to figure out the rest of it for the rest of the week from there, but... Okay. Not on... maybe I'll do a late night stream Thursday. We'll, oh no, because I'm doing Sunday and then we'll miss... We'll see how it goes. Alright. Bye. Thank you so much for coming to the stream. Hang on, actually, hang on a sec. Let me see something, because if we're... Let's see. Oh, Critical Role's running a... I'm gonna... I'm gonna raid into Brush for Hire, because he's cool. Alright. 9, 8, 7, 6...